Hey, my name is Brandon. You might have seen me around on the most recent episode of the Five Hole right here on Variety Sports Network. But what I'm here right now to do is to introduce a new series for you and for you racing lovers out there. We're bringing you a show called The Next Left Turn. And yes, we named it that way on purpose. So deal with it. It'll be okay. You'll be fine. Put your helmet on. Let's go for a ride. Introducing Josh, your host for tonight's show of Next Left Turn, right here on the Variety Sports Network.
Hey guys, how are you doing? Um, if you watch Birds of Bush or Cardinal Chronicles from when we first started VSN of the seventh inning stretch, you've seen me there. You've seen me on Five Hole, Blues Notes. I pop in and out. I'm going to be your NASCAR host this year. These are going to be a series of short videos. We're going to try to keep it 7 to 15 minutes, just kind of cover what happened in this week's race, give a little bit of preview of the next week's race, kind of give you updates. But let's get into the next left turn, week 1, the Daytona 500. Big event. Obviously, this is the event for NASCAR every season. All the celebrities go down. There's hundreds of thousands of people there. They spend the whole week there doing the whole thing. I mean, Daytona 500, I've never been, but I hear it's a fantastic event, even if you're not a race fan. So it's something that's on my bucket list. But let's get into the race. So got through the duels, got through the qualifying. Logano and McDowell end up starting on the front row. Logano has won the 500 in the past. McDowell has won the 500 in the past. So these guys are known for running well on this track. Logano drives for Penske. Penske's legendary. If you're a racing person, you know who Penske is. If you're not a racing person, you've heard of Roger Penske. He owns Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So race gets started. Pretty standard Daytona 500 start. 2x2 all the way back. We get to lap 6 and we get our first caution, which is really early in the Daytona 500 historically. And when you get a caution this early, it typically means you're going to have a very, very exciting, fun-filled race, or it's going to be a lot of drafting and a lot of just your standard stock car super speedway racing. But in this accident, it was John Hunter Nemechek kind of started it with Harrison Burton. They ended up collecting Austin Dillon, Jimmy Johnson, Kaz Gralla, Carson Hussover. I think he's a rookie. I'm not very familiar with him, and Ryan Preece. So here's how this kind of went down. John Hunter Nemechek was bumped in the rear by Brad Keselowski. They weren't quite square, so he loosened Nemechek up. When Nemechek came down, he took Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton then slid down in front of Kaz Gralla, and they slid into the infield. Most of the time when you slide in the infield, if you don't know, you just kind of keep in the infield. Well, both these guys came back up on the track, and that's when they ended up collecting Dillon and Jimmy Johnson and Preece, all of which continued racing for a short amount of time at the very least. I know Dillon at one point was down 53 laps at that point. I stopped paying attention. There were a series of crazy pit stops here. Almost everybody came in with the exception of 3 cars. And there was a lot of near misses. One that stood out to me was Bubba Wallace was trying to get out. Kyle Larson came in and kind of blocked him a little bit, gave Bubba a little bit of a hard time getting out, but things rolled around. Blaney and Bell were 2 of the cars that didn't pit. So on lap 12 of the restart, those 2 guys take off. Again, 2x2, normal Daytona super speedway racing, lots of good passing, lots of good drafting. Cars moving back and forth, a lot of bumping. That was the one thing that was really prevalent in this race. With these new cars and this next generation car, the car's a little bit more stable. They got the diffusers on the back. They're set up quite a bit different. They can ride a lot stiffer to get a lot faster, but the stiffer they are, the more bouncy they get, which can cause problems with super high speeds, as everybody knows. So you kind of thought after the lap 6 first wreck, we were like, okay, this is probably going to be a pretty interesting race. Well, quite the contrary. I mean, if you're a super speedway racer, this is a great race. A lot of bump drafting, a lot of movement back and forth, line shifting, the whole track was getting used the whole race. Lots of 3-wide racing through this whole race. But you don't get any other big crashes till the big one, and that's quite a bit late in the race, and we'll get there in a minute. So to end stage 1, that ends at lap 65. Chase Elliott's got the lead, so he gets the stage points there. Stage 2 starts, again, a ton of great bump drafting, lots of great super speedway racing if you're into that. No cautions, no major excitement. At the end of stage 2, Blaney's in the top spot, so he wins that stage. And at this point, because the race started in the afternoon, a little bit later than it would have started if it would have been ran yesterday, we start getting the lights on and darkness starts falling. So if you followed stock car racing or any racing, you know when temperatures drop, speeds go up, the track changes. So you got to change the car to it, and you see these little changes in the race. Well, Toyotas had their days during the duels. The Fords were the fastest cars out there for qualifying. But during the race, it was really the Chevys and the Fords that were really dominating most of the race, not just because the sheer number of them outdoes the Toyotas, but the cars were just seemed to be set up better for some reason, which was different than when they ran in the duels. So darkness rolls over. Chevys are really starting to make their push to the front at this point. Again, no cautions for all of stage 2. We get through stage 2, stage 3 rolls around. Still, good super speedway racing. There's not a lot going on. A lot of passing, a lot of lead changes, things moving back and forth, but nothing really stands out. We're in stage 3, 10 laps left. Now things are starting to get interesting. Everybody's jockeying for position. Everybody's getting ready to make their move, trying to figure out when's going to be the right time. So I want to set the stage here. With 10 laps left, we still have 30 cars on the lead lap. The cars are running 3 wide, up and down the backstretch, through all the turns, coming across the start-finish line. I mean, this is some intense racing. It's very interesting for not having cautions up to this point because of so much shuffling of the movement, how close the cars are, and watching these new cars really bump and get the big push and get pushed out there, and then watching the other cars strategically come up behind and then try to pass. It was really good racing. I gotta give them that. I'm not a big super speedway guy. I like the short track stuff. Bristol, tune in for Bristol. I go crazy over Bristol. But this was from like 16 laps to the end of the race. They're 3 wide, 2 wide, bump drafted. It's more aggressive now than it's been the whole race, which is expected. Now it starts really getting interesting. So you got Bowman and Byron and Keselowski and Chastain are all up front, and Bowman's pushing Byron, and Bowman loosens Byron up. Well, Byron wiggles, and he knocks Keselowski. Well, this is how the big one starts. This is the start of it, because you're talking Chastain's in front, and these guys are all right behind Chastain. So Byron gets wiggled by Bowman. He wiggles down, clips Keselowski. Keselowski somehow barely misses Chastain's rear bumper, comes right up, clips Logano, ends up in front of Blaney into the wall, and then guys start coming down the track, and everybody gets collected. I mean, half the cars are gone at this point. Most of them did get back on the track to finish the race, but that's down the road. So it really happens is Bowman loosens Byron. Byron clips Keselowski, which ends up saving Byron because it straightens him back out from the way he was wiggling. Then he turns Keselowski up the track into Logano and into Blaney. Truex, Hamlin, Gibbs, Gilliland, Alfredo, Reddick, Jones, Larson, Buescher, Briscoe all got collected. Like I mentioned, Chastain barely got missed by Keselowski's front bumper when Keselowski turned up. So Chastain remained in the lead going into the restart. At this point, there's so much damage and so much debris on the track. Red flag. So we're sitting, commentators talking like any other red flag. We get back to the yellow flag. We get the guys back on the track. There are some pit stops. Some guys aren't going to make it on fuel. Half the guys pit, half the guys stay on the track. Chastain then, so we get lined up for the restart. Chastain picks the outside for the restart, and Byron's on the inside. Behind Byron is Bowman. Or no, behind Chastain is Bowman, and behind Byron is Cindric, which is weird. You would have think that Bowman would have been behind Byron because they're teammates to start and go, but that's not the way it worked. And then behind Bowman is Chase Elliott, and LaJoie is behind Cindric. This is important, and I'm going to stop here because this is kind of what sets up the accident going into the last lap. Unfortunately, a very dramatic yet anticlimactic end to the Daytona 500 this year. No overtime. So they take off. There's 4 laps left when the green flag drops. They take off. They run the lap 4, then they run lap 3, then lap 2. Things are really starting. I mean, the guys are side by side racing all the way through the track. They're bump drafting. Guys are getting loose left and right. First time Hendrick's team went 1 and 2. Yeah, I'm getting there. Spoiler alert. But thanks for hopping in. I appreciate you being here. Anyways, so they restart coming down. They're about to cross the start finish line for the final lap, and Bowman at this point is behind Byron, or no, Bowman's behind Chastain, and they're on the outside, and Cindric is blocking LaJoy on the inside. Cindric's coming back up the track, and as Chastain is blocking, no, hold on, Chastain shoots the gap as, oh my gosh, I just spaced who was in it. Anyways, Chastain being the bold racer he's always been known to be, tries to shoot the gap. When he comes through the gap, he ends up clipping Cindric, and those two both spin out, causing another wreck. But because Byron had crossed the line, or Bowman had crossed the line when the caution came out, it was race over. Bowman wins. Byron pushes his teammate on, and then Hendricks finishes 1 and 2, like our spoiler alert. And the big significance on this race with this win is that Hendricks wins the Daytona 500 1-2, not only for the first time, but they also went on their 40th anniversary of being in NASCAR. So a big congratulations to Hendricks Motorsports. And that was kind of the race and all. When it came to the big one, some of the quotes were, Blaney said that was just racing at the end. Keselowski really agreed. Logano, as always, has something to say, and I quote, "I'm pissed off. That's my emotions." He chuckled after that. He gave Chastain credit for the blocks he was given up front before the big wreck. Logano did lead the most laps in this race at 45. So I want to give you guys a quick rundown of the finals of the race. And it was William Byron got the win. Alex Bowman came in second. Christopher Bell ended up finishing third. Corey LaJoy was fourth. Bubba Wallace got a top 5 finish, so I think that's his third top 5. I'm mad Elliott didn't finish top 5. He had such a great race. Yeah, he finished 14th. Still, I mean, Hendricks had, 3 or 4 cars in the top 20. But Bubba Wallace got 5th, so I think that's his third top 5 finish at the Daytona 500. He has finished second twice. AJ Allmendinger finished 6th. John Hunter Nemechek, who was involved in that first accident really, really early in the race, had a really good race, finished 7th. Eric Jones, who was involved in the big one, finished 8th. Noah Gragson finished 9th. And Chase Briscoe, who was involved in the big accident, finished 10th. And then you got Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Zane Smith, Chase Elliott finished 14th. Martin Truex finished 15th. Daniel Hemrick 16th. Ty Gibbs 17th. Buescher in 18th. Hamlin in 19th. And David Reagan finished 20th. Ross Chastain ended up finishing 21st. Cindric 22nd. Priest 23rd. Riley Herbst took 24th. Josh Berry and his debut with Stewart Haas Racing and a full-time NASCAR driver on the Big Boy Series finished 25th. Justin Haley 26th. Anthony Alfredo in his third Daytona 500 appearance finished 27th. Jimmy Johnson unfortunately finished 28th. Tyler Reddick 45th. The defending NASCAR champion Ryan Blaney finished 30th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finished 31st. Joey Logano finished 32nd. Brad Keselowski 33rd. Daniel Suarez 34th. Gilliland 35th. McDowell 36th. Dillon 37th. Gralla 38th. Harrison Burton 39th. And Carson Hocevar brought up the end of the field from that accident back on lap 6. So that was the results of the race. We head to Atlanta next week. Atlanta's it's like a small Daytona, high banks, really, really fast, 1.5-mile track. Race is going to be on Sunday on Fox national broadcast. It's 400 miles, 260 laps. Atlanta's a great track now with the new layout. I think this is the 3rd or 4th season they're running on it. So make sure you tune in next week. Show should be on next Monday night to recap what happens at Atlanta and then preview the following week. So thanks for coming in, guys. We'll see you next week. Remember, we just want to go fast.